Oh, Rob here, and today we're going to be talking about the music video for Dizzee Rascal's Dream. So, this is for Component 1, Media Products, Industries and Audiences, so you're only ever going to get this be coming up on Component 1 paper, you're only ever going to get it in Section A. So it's going to be about media language, representation, media context. So obviously you're going to need to be analysing this in terms of your mise en scène, your camera work, so your cinematography, your editing, your sound, your music. You're also going to need to be looking at how those micro features create macro meanings. So what is denoted and what is connoted. So you're going to have to consider the representations. And you're going to have to talk about how those relate to the context of how these media products were made and received. So, theory-wise, semiotics by Roland Barthes, genre theory by Steve Neal, structuralism by Claude Lévi-Strauss, postmodernism by Jean Baudrillard, theories of representation by Stuart Hall, theories of identity by David Gauntlet, and theories around ethnicity and post-colonial theory. Those are the key core theories that you need to be able to apply to these music videos. Bit of context. Dizzee Rascal, solo rap artist within the garage grime genre, won the Mercury Music Prize for his debut album Bound Corner in 2003. The single Dream was released in 2004 and was taken from his second album Showtime. The video for Dream was directed by Dougal Wilson of Colonel Blimp Production Company, and he's an award-winning director of commercials and music videos. Now let's have a think of some theory. This is stretch and challenge theory. It's not the key theories, but it's useful to know, okay? So Roy Schuker, he defined what a pop or music video is. So pop promos is sometimes called. He said that they're promotional devices. They encourage record sales and chart action. Obviously, this was 19 years ago. Things have changed considerably in the music industry since then. People are buying less and less music nowadays as streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and Deezer and all these kind of things are taking over. So, in this world, music videos have got a more important role in that A, they have themselves become the text that people consume. So people are more likely to listen to music on YouTube nowadays, rather than buying a CD or a record or cassette or whatever it was back in the day. So not only do they become the product in themselves rather than just an advert for a product, they still encourage chart action because, the charts are still a thing. But they've got a more important role nowadays in actually shaping and developing a performer's or musical artist's persona, establishing this star persona, establishing this style, establishing generic tropes and conventions, things like that. Now, according to Svenny Carlson, this is back in 1999, you can subdivide music videos into 3 subgenres. There are performance clips. Exactly what it says. Like this is where you see the artist or artists, the band, the singer, the rapper, the whatever, performing. Now that could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be singing and dancing, it could be DJing, it whatever they do, right? Then you've got conceptual clips. Now those might be completely conceptual, where you never even see the performing artist. But whichever way you look at it, they will often be narrative based, so they might be a little story. They might be there to promote a much more artistic idea. They can be surrealist, but they're mainly based on ideas. It's interesting in that music videos, when they first came out, were a very avant-garde art thing. It was art bands that really did music videos back in the sort of like the 70s. They were quite often using the conventions of avant-garde video art. And to this day, music videos are one of the places you will see some of the most cutting-edge avant-garde filmmaking techniques. And then you've got hybrid clips, mix concepts or narrative with performance. Now, what are some of the tropes in the music video? Well, according to Andrew Goodwin, there's some relationship between lyrics and visuals. That would be vertical montage from a Sergei Eisenstein point of view. The visuals and the music, obviously, the lyrics, they will illustrate, they will amplify, they will sometimes contradict, they might be ironic. There might be an ironic juxtaposition between what you can see and what you can hear. So sometimes the music video, let's say your song is a love song, right? Well, sometimes, you might have a little narrative in your video that directly reflects what the lyrics are talking about. Sometimes the music video might be completely, just totally abstract imagery. Then you've got what you call thought beats. This is where you see the sounds. Now, that could be, again, where the images on screen are basically almost like sound waves, for example, on an oscilloscope or something. But I think it's more along the lines of, think about Sergei Eisenstein's idea of rhythmic and metric montage, where the music and the singing and the editing and all the other elements work together to create rhythm and pace. Then we've got genre-related style and iconography present. So the music video is going to contain some of the iconography you'd expect from that musical genre, but it also helps to shape the style and generic elements of a music genre, right? How a person who likes that kind of music, for example, should dress. What the costumes, props they might, need, all that kind of stuff. What kind of dances might they do? What kind of, image are they trying to put across? Obviously, because music videos are promotional tools, and they're there to help create the image of the artist or artists, you're going to have close-ups of the main artist to promote this star persona. If it's a group, it's usually the vocalist who gets the most attention, sometimes the lead guitarist. It's creating their star image, it's creating a recognizable brand image for this artist. Music videos can be pretty voyeuristic, and by this I mean they have a tendency to objectify people, especially women. So we can bring in Laura Mulvey's male gaze here, where women are being subjected to a male gaze. This is something we find particularly in the case of, rap music videos in particular are criticised for this. Back in the 80s it was rock music getting criticised for the same thing. So male gaze is very much a part of the music video, and a gay gaze in some cases as well, if you're looking at sort of like your boy bands. And then you've got intertextual references, where the music video and indeed the lyrics of the music itself might intertextually refer to some other media text. Now, a good example of this, is very postmodern, is sampling and mashups. They're a perfect example of intertextual references. You're literally taking part of another music text and plonking it into your song. Now let's take this last one and sort of like elaborate on it a bit. Now, there's a lot of intertextuality. It's a very postmodern video, this one for Dream, okay? Now, one of the first things it does is it uses a sample. It uses a sample of a song called Happy Talk. And the version it uses is a sample from a pop single that was released in 1982 by Captain Sensible. It was the bassist of the Damned punk group. It did pretty well on the charts, on top of the pops and all this kind of stuff. It was a big hit. But the song was originally from a musical called South Pacific, which debuted on Broadway in 1949, was releases a film version in 1958. This is a film version, obviously, down here. Okay, so it uses a sample. That's a perfect example of intertextuality. Julia Kristeva theory, remember? It's a mash, it's a mashup where you take parts of one song and mash it up with another one. The key visual style, though, of this music video is taken from children's television programs. The most obvious one is Muffin the Mule. Muffin the Mule ran on the BBC from 1942 to 1955, and it was presented by Annette Mills. So the woman in the video is clearly meant to be Annette Mills, who was the sister of the famous actor John Mills. I've seen so many British war movies of the era. But it was a show in which she sat and played the piano, and on her piano there would be these marionettes, these string puppets that would interact with her. My mother had one of these metal Muffin the Mules. I still remember playing that when I was little. Other children's television programs that have clearly been an influence. There's a bit in the video where you see a drunk set an off license, and that drunk bears a striking resemblance, I think, to Parsley the Lion, from The Adventures of Parsley the Lion, which was a spin-off of The Herbs, a TV show for kids, with this classic Cosgrove Hall animation, stop-motion animation style. All this old BBC TV style animation is gorgeous. It's really iconic and evocative. Going through this and into many other shows, things like Magic Roundabout and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, definitely looks like Parsley the Lion. Then you've got this reference here. This is Hugo the Dummy from the Ealing portmanteau horror film, Dead of Night. Portmanteau film was one. We got lots of little stories strung together. And this one featured a ventriloquist who had a very dark relationship with his dummy. And he has like a split personality, and the dummy has his own personality that bullies the ventriloquist until eventually the dummy's identity takes over completely and he ends up in a mental institution. But deeply disturbing and creepy. I mean, it was made in 1945, but I remember showing this to one of my second year film classes many years ago, and it terrified them. It seriously creeped them out. Great film, great sequence. But there's a baby in a pram in Dream video that looks not dissimilar to Hugo from Dead of Night. And a later puppet I remember from TV, I think it was called Lord Haw-Haw, something like that. One of the other ones then is the famous Noddy books by Enid Blyton. The marionette puppets in this of Dizzee's friends look very much like the marionette puppets from the TV version of Noddy. And his best friend, Big Ears. Which reminds me of one of my favourite jokes. Why have elephants got big ears? Because Noddy wouldn't pay the ransom. Amuses me. Anyway, so Noddy, yeah, Enid Blyton stories. So, what kind of questions are you likely to get for this? Well, you might get questions that ask something like, consider the way in which mise-en-scène in Dizzee Rascal's Dream influences meaning through the use of iconography. You might get questions like, consider the way social groups through stereotypes of race, gender, social class, Britishness are represented in Dizzee Rascal's Dream through process selection combination. Something like, consider how developing technologies affect media language with specific reference to the use of green screen, also known as chroma key, compositing, or a travelling mat. Obviously, Dizzee Rascal in this video looks very small. He's not really very small. They use CG to do that, so what they would have done is filmed him performing in front of a green screen, an evenly lit green screen. Then they would have put it into a computer and told the computer to remove anything green and replace it with some other image. On TV, it's called, or video editing, it's called chroma key. Compositing is where you put more than one thing on top of each other. And travelling mat is what these things are traditionally called. And of course, you can all link that to Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality. So, other things, you could have something like consider how intertextuality creates meaning in Dizzee Rascal's dream. They wouldn't mention it, Julia Kristeva, in the exam because she's not one of the key theorists. But again, consider intertextuality creates meaning. This is both of them the videos we're going to be looking at. Both this and Riptide have got a lot of intertextuality in them. You might have something like consider how narrative structure, Todorov, in Dizzee Rascal's dream establishes binary opposites. Claude Levi-Strauss. You know, there's a narrative in this video. And that's it. So, I will go through the video, which I will show you that in class. We'll do it bit by bit, shot by shot. If you've got any questions, you know where I am. Talk to you next time.